Hello, everyone. Welcome to Midweek Gaming. I'm Nick, and on the side of the other comms, of course, Justin. And before we get too deep into it, I'm sorry. It's weird for me to say that, but we did break our streak as of last week. We try to upload everything once. We try to upload something every week and try to keep things at least once per week. But because of how busy we both got, and possibly how lazy I was on the side, because of how busy we both were, we just didn't have anything up for last week, so I'm sorry if you were wondering where the weekly upload went, and the YouTube algorithm, please forgive us. I know we're probably going to get penalized for that, but what are you going to do? So, back on the gambit we go, and what better thing to talk about than Bungie and Destiny? Before we get too deep into it, I'm just going to sit here in orbit and do some clarification. I'm sure if you've been following Destiny, though, everyone and your mother has probably been hearing about it. I mean, I could talk about Genshin and Arlecchino, which I might be pulling for it. It's between Nervalette and Arlecchino, and I decided Arlecchino. But I'm getting off topic. So, Destiny. Yeah, that happened. I'm sure everyone and your mother, if you've been following Destiny, you probably heard about it at this point. But Bungie revealed as of this Tuesday that just passed, the big Into the Light, or not, both Into the Light reveal as well as their more in-depth developer blog dash thing for Final Shape, and yeah, that was something. If you don't know for some reason, allow me to be the one to tell you that spoiler alert if you're before you're going into
Yes.
if you want to go into the Final Shape completely blind and hear nothing, number one, why are you on the internet? Number two, go away, find a
Yeah.
rock to hide under.
Don't you're gonna be teased and told about a lot of the stuff that's to come. So best to just hop off this video for a little while.
Yeah, you know, in the words of Bife, go and find a rock to hide under for the next like 2 months
Just
or
play
so.
the game and only the game.
Not even that. Like that's probably gonna even hint toward things in general. Just go hide under a
Well,
rock or
yeah,
something. I don't know.
but I mean, if you're playing the game, of course it's gonna hint towards it. But if you're looking at YouTube videos and internet stuff, you're gonna be told outright about a lot more.
Yeah, like I'm sure there's at least 20 guys before me that's covered this in more detail. So there you go. But not as entertaining as us though.
Yes.
That's our selling point. But anyways, so yeah, with that spoiler alert out of the way, Destiny or Bungie revealed what Into the Light and more specifically Final Shape come its release is going to have. Everyone was wagering on a red subclass or orange subclass due to the leaks, and well, we didn't get an orange or red subclass, at least not that we know of yet. We are getting a new subclass though, not in I think the way any of us predicted, in the form of Prismatic, which Bungie is calling an advanced subclass, and honestly upon reflection I think that quite fits.
And in some regards, kind of starts to verge towards the whole lore accurate thing for Guardians and stuff.
I was waiting for you to
So,
say that.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But
Honestly, no, you're
but like first thoughts is like, holy crap, this is going to make like some overpowered builds. Like
yeah, no.
I already predict people are basically always gonna run around with the grapple. Like
Literally, like a lot of people are already saying once this comes out, there's going to be very little reason possibly to go back to older subclasses. I mean, Paul Tassi himself kind of discussed the matter when he was discussing it, and he said that the possibility of people going back there to like basic subclasses might be due to the fact that if you don't specifically spec into like one subclass, like if you're running a pure arc build, you can't get like the full benefits of arc and stuff like
yeah.
that.
Like that's the big thing is like both Arc and Void very well build off of itself, and if you don't run the full build, you might not get as much of a benefit out of it as you would. But vice versa, you might be able to go and run this, like you might be able to run Prismatic and just have your main build as like the main part of it, but then you like tune and change small bits here and there. Like
Yeah.
it would be worth trying out because then that way you might be able to find the little bits here and there that you might be able to outright change. But basically you're gonna be able to run like multiple subclasses in one quote
At the
unquote
same time.
subclass.
So if you haven't figured it out early, let me just spell it out for you. Prismatic's main selling point as an advanced subclass, and I'll keep reiterating that's an advanced subclass because there have been some discourse as to if this is truly a real new subclass or not. And I will just draw the line in the sand here and give a definitive answer as far as I can perceive it. Yes. And I'll explain why later, but for now let me just explain how Prismatic works. Prismatic effectively, its main selling point is that it is a quote transcendent state for the Guardians, in that you will be able to wield both light and dark at the same time, as well as other light and dark abilities of different subclasses at the same time, which is just in as kind of showed you means you can run, maybe your arc melee with your freaking strand grenade and a bunch of crazy shit you can do.
Like,
And there have been some people saying that this is kind of the idea that maybe Bungie is moving away from the concept of classes altogether, or at least subclasses altogether, which makes sense.
yeah, like that's the big thing is like a simple little build for maybe even a hunter would be the one solar dodge that allows you to go and give yourself radiant, paired with grapple, paired with maybe stasis melee, or maybe some melee, or some melee that goes and helps provide you with another buff or something. You can pair multiple things together, and you can use this main super that you want as well. Now, the big question of the day is chances are the subclass screen that we have now is what Prismatic is going to look like. And the big question, yeah, the one that you're looking at right now,
not ours, but the one you see in the demo.
No. Like I'm showing on my screen right now, the subclass screen.
Oh, you actually look at like the video
Yes.
function. Yeah.
But the big question of the day is, so obviously you're gonna be able to change your grenade and melee. You're obviously gonna be able to set what base super you want. The question lies is what else are you also going to be able to change and modify? Are you going
I believe they also mention aspects and fragments will be interchangeable, to some degree, possibly.
Yes.
But I do believe they said that.
It'll be interesting to see how that works. And here's my reasoning for asking this is because a lot of the subclass or the aspects completely build with one another. If you don't have one, a lot of the time the other doesn't really work out as nicely. It's 100% the case for the fragments. Certain fragments pair completely with a certain subclass and or for an aspect. If they are not together, it is very difficult to use those fragments and are at most points just utilized for extra stat bonuses at that point.
Yeah, at some point, you do make a point. Some aspects and fragments literally spec into their elements so much that unless you're running that elemental thing that they're specking off of, unless they have some stat boosts, they basically become useless to a degree. And that might go back into what we said earlier about the idea of like, why would you go back to running singular subclasses? Well, to kind of also another point here, they said that to build the super bar, right, in Prismatic, you need to do damage with both light and dark, and doing respective damage with each will build up each side of that bar. Once you get both of them ready, then you can do the whole Prismatic super nonsense. That said, though, that might be a bit more difficult if you're not tuning everything. So you kind of have to say, do I want to go broad or do I want to go focused? And if I go focused, I can get all the stuff that comes with focusing, but I won't be able to spread out very much.
Yeah.
If at all, right? So maybe that's the kind of selling point there. It's like, yes, it's extremely powerful. Yes, it's going to be very busted if used to its fullest extent, but it's also going to be harder to proc and work with to a degree as well.
Yeah. It's basically going to be the definition of, like, what is it? The master of none, knowledge on all.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, you're going to have a basis of, like, everything, almost, if you want. But you're not going to be able to fully utilize like that certain elements.
Gildanol, Master of None. I believe it goes something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So like
So
that's gonna be the big thing about it is like by the sounds of it, like especially the part where you need to go in order to get it procced, you need both light and dark. So the question lies, all right, are you going to be forced in a way to have some light and dark at like abilities and stuff? Like are you going to be forced to have to share that? And if you don't, you're basically pooched and not going to be able to use your super at all.
that's a good question,
Yeah.
right? They said it comes from light and dark damage, not specifically abilities, but damage. So will you have to kind of run both types of elements to get that benefit? Granted, that's becoming easier and easier these days, but it is still something worth
Yeah,
considering,
like
right?
there's also weapons for that, but it does still stand into a good point. Like what exactly is going to be added? Like there could be even an argument that in a way you might maybe even get two types of supers. You get like a light super and a dark super, and they both have a slightly increased timer in order to cast than normal because you're running you're running both, but it allows you to run both a light and dark subclass, allowing you to kind of be able to go and do both light and dark damage at the same time. Like
You might
that
have a
might be
point.
another thing. Like you might outright be given the ability to have maybe three aspects, six fragments, no matter what. Hell, they might even allow us to have like another ability type thing or something. Like we don't know, but
Maybe.
we'll
You
see.
might be onto something.
Yeah,
You might be onto something there because I think during the trailer, when the hunter actually does proc prismatic, I think you see them both wielding types of supers for light and dark as well. But I could be wrong. I'm not most too familiar with the hunter supers off the top of my head. I don't play hunter.
mm. I mean, for the
So
most part, when you're casting a super, no matter what subclass, you tend to end up becoming a big light for that color. So,
mm,
eh.
but again, that and on the moving off from the topic of the subclass, the whole issues with prismatic as well, we kind of go back to that argument of, um, the Destiny's moving away from subclasses, right? Not classes, at least perhaps not yet. That is to say, I've even heard some people rumors that there might be Bungie is starting to work on Destiny 3, and that's whole something else. But again, that's not what this video is about. Look into those rumors if you want to. But it is kind of showing this idea that Bungie is moving away from the concept of subclasses, which, if you'll pardon me a moment of nostalgic revelry for a moment, it is kind of funny to see that, considering when Destiny 1 first launched, Guardian classes were very much set in their classes. Hell, back in the original days of D1 and even the beginning of D2, if memory serves, you couldn't use all three subclasses. Each Guardian subclass, or each Guardian class, had two types of subclasses they could use, and that was it. It wasn't until Taken King with a third version was introduced so everyone could use everything to a degree. And when you look in the lore, that kind of argument of like lore accurate guardians does kind of hold some level of water, because when you look at the history of Destiny in the story and lore side, there's really no difference between a hunter, a titan, and a warlock beyond pure preferences. Like there's literally guardians in canon like the Drifter, who's not even quote unquote a guardian because of how old he is, that has done everything from Thunder Crash to Golden Gun. So, you
Yeah, like
know,
it kind of comes down to like, do you know
what
how
you
to
know.
do it? Like
Yeah.
you have to either be taught or learn how to do it yourself, and if given enough time, you will figure it out. So,
Yeah. So it does make sense that they're moving away from subclasses because, like I said, lore-wise, it never really made much sense to pigeonhole guardians, especially when there are other subclasses that are just as useful. But will they keep the classes? Probably, because at that point, what the frick's the point? But I can certainly see
I
them moving more and more
I
away from
could see
subclasses
the
themselves.
potential. I'll say this. I could
Hmm.
see a potential and maybe an argument for us being able to maybe interchangeably use abilities. So a Titan or a Warlock being able to dodge or use a well or like I could maybe see an argument for that because then that way you can go and spec more into specific builds that allow you to kind of utilize those tools a little more towards their fullest whilst also
Yeah.
benefiting your class specifically as well.
Hmm.
So like it might allow it so that a warlock could go and become like a little more tanky and be able to go and protect their team a little more. You never know. There's a good chance that that might not happen, but there is a little bit of an argument for a case where every class is going to be able to use the ability. There
Yeah.
is a small area where I could see that happening with with prismatic.
I mean, I can see it. Like, it's certainly starting. Like, when you look at it, I think it would play out something like this, right? And I think this is an argument a lot of people have kind of come, or a decision, or a point a lot of people have come to. The supers themselves will forever remain with the classes they're associated with,
Yeah,
just for the sake of keeping them unique. Also, when you look at subclass 3.0, how the menus are structured now, there's literally a subsect called a class ability. So I think that will also forever remain with the class they're associated with. Now they might add more abilities, like the hunter might have the ability to now, I don't know, instead of dodge, teleport behind someone and stab them in the back, all assassin-like, and a
arc
warlock
be
might
like,
arc be like, and a warlock might have the ability to quite literally just summon like a class ability of like all three different types of uh,
the little
element buddies.
element balls
Yeah.
like the arc
I
things
could
and
see
stuff.
that being like a one-off class ability, being like summon them all at once,
Hmm.
especially with how they're like portraying the warlock as kind of like the summoner now, not just the healer. It's been we're kind of losing the healer role with things like healing grenades. But with things like movement abilities, like yeah, I could see the maybe the bounce of the hunters now becoming a thing that also warlocks and titans can use. Like those kind of smaller things, I can kind of see them bringing into, right? I mean, they already did that with grenades. Like those most people are probably going to be around long enough to know this, but prior to subclass 3.0, all they're just like the classes, all of the or just like um the subclasses, the actual grenades were also specific to whatever class you were playing. Now I can use grenades on my warlock in the arc category that were originally used by titans and hunters and stuff like that. So I can see them doing that with things like maybe melees, movement abilities, and grenades, but keeping the class abilities specific to the class as well as the super itself, and maybe adding more supers as time goes on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can certainly see them doing that, but are they moving away from the concept of subclasses per se? Yeah. Yeah, I can certainly see that as well.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
There's a good fair amount to look forward to for when Prismatic comes out when it all
on a side
drops.
note, on a side note, a lot of people were saying how everyone was freaking laughing as all hell because this is Bungie cornered. Because if you haven't been keeping track with Bungie news, currently it's kind of been portrayed by everyone that Bungie has kind of been pressed to the back of the with their back to the wall with both Sony demanding results and people kind of getting fed up with their nonsense. So now they kind of have to do something big to change this. I think it was maybe even Cross that suggested this. It wasn't the first, I don't think, but he did suggest this. Like the idea of Prismatic being thrown together in the last like 3-4 months during the delay to actually give Final Shape something for people to want to buy, because the Final Shape pre-orders were in the toilet, and now all of a sudden all those pre-orders are gone. Surprisingly, also when Prismatic came out, so it just
Who knows?
on the
Who
topic of
knows?
moving away from subclasses, there's also that new subclass item they're bringing in. For those who aren't aware, exotic subclass items weren't actually a thing that's new to Lightfall. It was actually a thing way back in Destiny 1 as well. But after Destiny 2 came out, the concept of exotic class items kind of fell to the wayside. Because, I mean, yeah, weapons and armor and stuff like that, sure, but I guess they just never picked up the idea of exotic subclasses again because what were they really going to do, right? Those are two, well, they were always hyper focused on subclasses or classes when it came to the armor anyway, but I guess I just couldn't think of anything or something. But now with these new kind of, I'm not sure what they're calling them, exalted prismatic subclass ornament things, to increase the level of brokenness that final shape is going to bring. God knows I'm feeling bad for the sandbox team when all this drops. Um, basically, what's going to happen is now this class ability, or this exotic piece of class item, will now allow you to run the powers of other exotics. So let's say I have Necrotic Grip on, right? Well, maybe I can run a exotic Warlock Bond that has the power of Necrotic Grip, but also gives me the power of, say, Nezarec Sin. Why I would want the power of Nezarec Sin, I do not know, but it's a thing. So now you can run multiple exotics at the same time. You just go and run off Fire Team just so you can go play an activity.
I'm just saying, we've been sitting in space for 20 minutes.
You just could have told me, my dude. I didn't know you were showing the thing.
I did.
Now I didn't get the notifications.
I did.
I told you, I gotta look at the notifications. Well, anyways, Justin can keep you entertained anyway. It's probably a good idea he runs it anyway, because my laptop is having issues, but that's a whole other story. At least I can focus on talking. So, anyways, where was I? Oh yes, the exotic subclass pieces, or the exotic class piece. So now this allows you to run the actual abilities in this subclass piece of multiple different exotics at once. So now you can run 2 exotics instead of 1. And they're even hinting the possibility of allowing you to run the abilities of other classes' exotics on your exotics. So could I run like
I mean,
some blade ability?
that's gonna see. Here's the problem with that. There's a lot of exotics that are built like a lot of armor exotics. Well, no. Well, around the subclass, but there's a lot of exotics built around a class's super. So the big thing is how is that all going to look? Like, what exactly are they going to gain and be able to do?
Well, it might just be abilities, right? Not actually like the straight up powers. Like when it comes to your own class, you're probably going to be able to run like multiple different armor exotics abilities versus, you know, other subclasses. Like maybe I'll get the power to go invisible more often if I have like a hunter thing or something like that. But yeah, that's just a theory. That one's still gonna have to see how that truly plays out, but we'll see. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much Lightfall in a nutshell as of currently stands. I won't get too deep into it for the sake of brevity and time. But then again, there's also Into the Light, which let's just segue right into that. So no new tower, sadly. New tower's not coming back. I know, I'm sad too. I wanted it. I truly did, but we got Shax, who doesn't even have any new voice lines, which, no, not gonna lie, kind of sad about, kind of unhappy about, but I spent a little bit of time thinking whether Into the Light was, I don't want to say worth it, because we're not paying anything for it, but is it good, right? Like, is it worth playing, essentially? And not gonna lie, I went back and forth on this for a bit now. For those who don't know, I have played both the Onslaught 50 round and the 10 round. Played quite a few of the 10 rounds. Played one of the 50 rounds. Got all the way to the boss and finished it. So I've got pretty good experience with it at this point. Honestly, I originally was gonna say no. But then after a bit of consideration and thought, I kind of bounced back to yes. And I'll explain for both reasons why. I feel like I was going to say, I was going to explain something else. Oh, yes, the advanced subclasses. Before we leave the final shape. Final note on the final shape. Why are they calling them advanced subclasses? And why is this actually a new class? Well, remember, in any MMO, an advanced subclass is not necessarily a new subclass, so to speak. It is an evolution, generally, of a subclass. So an advanced subclass could say, instead of being Warlock, I'm now, you know, a battle mage or something like that. Probably the other way around, actually, be more accurate. But it's the idea that you're not truly getting something truly new, but more of an evolved version of what you already have. So is this a new subclass? I'm going to say yes, because, again, it's an advanced subclass, not a whole new subclass. And technically, in MMO speak, there is a difference. So that's my 2 cents on it. Anyways, tangent over, back to what I was saying before. So, is Onslaught worth it? Like I said, yes and no. Well, originally no. Yes, I do believe it is now, because factoring in the time. remember that, number one, Bungie isn't making us pay for any of this, so, you know, it's not like we're losing really anything if we don't play it, outside of the FOMO nonsense. And you gotta remember how this is structured, right? Currently, we are 2-ish months out from final shape. Lightfall is supposed to take us into the final shape. And 2 months, technically speaking, 2-ish months, is arguably not that long, especially what Onslaught is. It is something just to tide players over and give players something to do for the next 2-ish months. And honestly, I can see this being a thing. Now, I have an asterisk, like I said, when I said, is it worth playing? Yes. Is it going to tide you over for those 2 months, however? Well, that I'm going to say that depends, and I will explain that one right now, actually. Take me as a good case study. As Justin, my dear co-host and editor, can explain, I play Bungie's game, Destiny. Why do I always asterisk them by putting... Nah, never mind. I play Destiny somewhat religiously. Not excessively, mind you, but to a degree a lot. Quite a lot. Probably more than most. And I can say to you that even as a person who plays this game religiously, I don't think that this will really be worth or will keep me tied over for 2 months, because while Onslaught is a fun mode, 50 rounds is fun, and if you play the full 50, quite challenging near the end as well, it can get old really fast, I think. Because remember, there's not much to do, there's no really new voice lines from Shaxx. Yeah, there's a new Grimoire book that you can kind of unlock slowly, from what I can see. There's a bit of FOMO evidence with the whole Super Black and the skin nonsense, but other than that, if you play Destiny and all you play as an MMO is Destiny, can I tell you in good faith this is going to keep you tied over for 2 months? If I'm being quite honest, unsolicited advice, probably not. Even though I play Destiny religiously, I do have other games I rotate through. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I play Genshin, I play Star Rail, I play Warframe, as I mentioned in previous videos as well. So I have other MMOs, and that's not even counting the slew of single players I possess, that I can rotate through when things kind of dry up over in Destiny. So if you only play Destiny as your MMO of choice, and that's all you play, and not, again, factoring in single player games, is this going to be enough? Probably not. You're probably going to get all this dried up in maybe a month, half a month from now, at most. Or at least, I should say. No, at most, we'll say. If you, however, are like me and have other games you play through, and, you play Destiny a lot, but you do have other things you can fall back on, you know what? I can see this as something that'll keep you tied it over for 2 months, because you're not sinking all of your gameplay time into Destiny. You're rotating through other things as well. So, is it worth playing? Yes. Will it keep you tied it over? Well, it depends on whether you only play Destiny. If the answer to that is yes, then my answer is going to be no. If you don't only play Destiny, then yes, this will keep you tied it over for 2 months, and the long and short of it. And apparently there's also a lot of secrets to be found in Shaxx's little room thing, so there's that.
Yes, for anyone who's run around, you'll probably notice...
Don't spoil it!
Notice some things.
But, all in all, though, like I said, could Bungie have done... Let's talk about... before we finish up, though. Could Bungie have done more? Yes, they could have. They could have brought back the old tower to some degree. They could have at least given Shaxx new voice lines. They could have done a lot of things. The hell, they could have had more than 3 maps. But they didn't. That said, it's not as bad as it looks. It could be worse, honestly. And I say that non-sarcastically. Like, this is not the best it could be, but we've had far worse, and we've eaten far less meals in the past, so to speak. So, is Onslaught and Into the Light overall decent? Yeah, it's decent, honestly. And from what I hear, there's still bits and bobs that we've yet to get. Like, there's still weapons that have yet to drop. That's probably going to drop in the ensuing weeks. Like,
Yeah,
Hammerhead.
there's a fair amount of weapons and items that are time gated.
Pantheon is a mode that's still going to get dropped, which I'm still trying to figure out how the heck that works. A mode where you can just challenge raid bosses and run for the exotic weapons. Like, on paper, that sounds like a good idea, because then I don't have to constantly run through the raid and smack my head into the wall every time I don't get the bloody weapon. But we'll have to see how that plays out. Apparently, there's some spoilers to how that might work going on. Frickin' Evade, I'm looking at you. But we'll see. But yeah, so we'll see how it plays out. Honestly, it could be worse, but it could be better, but it could be worse. So all in all, not a bad mode. Like I said, I'm just cheesed they didn't give Shaxx new voice lines, but like I said, when they said this was going to be less than the 30th anniversary, my thought was, okay, we're not going to have a dungeon. Because, you know, dungeons take a lot of work to make. Those are basically mini raids. So that makes sense, right? But I at least expected, you know, some things here and there. But, what are you going to do? Bungie might just be saving up on all their budget to make Final Shape the biggest thing they can make, because if they don't make Final Shape good, well, you've read the articles. So,
yeah,
that's that. That's my opinion on Onslaught. That's my
I'll
take.
put my 2 cents into Onslaught real quick because I've played it a few times. I do see like the defend the generator type element from Halo Reach's firefight, which is very nice, and also like how they implemented how like the health system and all that works, where every so often you get enemies that'll provide you with the ability to repair everything. That's that like how they handled the overall amount of damage the generator takes and how you can repair it and everything. That was very well done. And then I don't help me out here for scrap. Is scrap central to everyone? Is it the same currency everybody has and shares, or is it individualistic?
That's a good question, and they asked that on their streams too. Allow me to run you through that one. So scrap is something everyone earns cumulatively, but everyone spends individually.
Okay. So then, for the most part, I would say on average, chances are you'd probably be able to just go and purchase everything that you can fairly reasonably quickly. So, there's that. So, yeah, no, I would say it's not a bad mode, and in some regards I can see some like copy pasted elements, but for the most part it's pretty much a new fresh game mode.
It's the horde mode that
like I would say it would definitely fall within the purview of like it is a horde mode. It is a defend point horde mode.
Now the question is, will they keep this in long term? Like I said, I don't think there's enough here compared to the 30th anniversary to justify that, especially with like the lack of new voice lines and stuff like that. The FOMO elements are the only thing that make me like, honestly, because of how, I don't want to say little work, but because of how bare bones beyond certain things this thing is.
Some of it is fairly bare bones, so.
And remember, it's only for 2 months, and if it were only for those 2 months, I'd say that makes sense, right? And we've covered on my opinions on that. But there's the whole... Here, do me a favor, Justin. Let me give you a good example here. I still have it, right? You're not in a mission, are you?
No.
Go over to my character, and look on my hung jury. This is the... Actually, better yet, before you do that. This is the base hung jury. Yeah, here we go. This is the base hung jury, because this is part of their new Brave Arsenal. Now, the Brave Arsenal is one of the biggest points of contention with Onslaught. Not Onslaught in general, I should say. Into the Light in general is perhaps the better way of looking at it. Now, the hung jury you're seeing right here is actually the one I earned throughout playing the Onslaught missions. Now, you'd think, that looks nice. It's a nice hung jury. It's not the only hung jury you can get, though, and here's where the contention starts. Not only is this a version of weapon that you can get as part of this, But through grinding effectively and doing special quests to unlock basically the ability to attune these weapons, so I guess getting higher versions of them, you can get a hold of weapons that have a limited edition skin on them. Now let me show you the other hung jury. This is the limited edition hung jury skin you can get. Everything's transmitting on your end, right, Justin?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, good. I'm not just talking to the wind here. It's nice, it's shiny, and it's also for a limited time, and the last little bit is what's causing people contention. As far as I know, Into the Light is the only time you can get this, and your attunement allows you to get this. Now, for those who don't know, this is actually a skin, so if you go down to appearances, you can actually see it listed as a limited time skin, but don't get any ideas. I tried putting it on the basic hung jury, not the true basic hung jury, but the brave basic hung jury, and I couldn't. So I'm curious, is this something that you can only get on weapons that come from this moment? And if Into the Light is a temporary mode, which I'm wagering it might be, this, along with Super Black if you don't get it, but that's not here or there, will you be able to get these skins in the future? Now, most weapon skins go into the Eververse store, unless they're like Season Pass specific, in which case that's a whole other issue. But these things here make me wonder, what are they going to do with these limited time skins after Into the Light is gone? And hell, even I've technically earned the quote-unquote hung jury limited time skin, or at the very least have a rifle with it on it, but I've technically not earned that skin, so how the heck does that work? I'm weirded out by how they're playing.
Yeah, because I'll say this, because it's a fair point. There's a very good reason why people have bloated vaults, and that is either A, because they don't know exactly what's good or not, or B, have items that they really like, look nice, and they're like, oh, hey, this is a cool weapon to, like, run around with and like, act like I've got, like, this cool weapon, look at my collection type thing. Like, a fine addition to my collection type thing. But when they set up ornaments and stuff like this, that should mean that there should be some means to allow you to use that ornament wherever you want, because then that way it reduces the amount of bloat on vaults. And if they go and reduce the amount of bloat on vaults, they can make it so that they can maybe reduce the vault size instead of needing to constantly up the vault size. Like,
that's the
there's
thing, right?
so many reasons why vaults are so bloated, and that is because people have items that were basically limited edition, sunsetted, you can't get it anymore, but I like it. I want to keep it. Like,
that's the thing, right? Honestly, like, I can't remember if they did it Into the Light or if they're going to do it in Final Shape, but they added an extra 100 on. I don't remember if they did it an hour later, but they added an extra 100 vault slots in. But here's the problem, right? It goes back to what you said. People have bloated vaults, and prior to crafting, it was purely due to the fact that it's like you said, it's a raid weapon, and after things got sunset, well, shit, now I can't get this raid weapon anymore, but it looks nice, and also, I like the perks on it, so I'm gonna keep this thing.
mm-hmm.
Now, add that times a few dozen and a half raids, and a few other things from seasons, which again, this was before crafting, and before transmog, and that's a whole other thing. You just kind of had vaults that were just piling up with trinkets and trophies from years of seasons and raids. And after sunsetting, well, that became kind of the crux of the whole matter. Crafting was introduced in Transmog to fix these things. And Transmog, well, that's the whole other mess. But crafting introduced a solution, but also a whole other problem. The method by which you crafted required you to hoard a certain type of weapon until you got the blueprints. So people started hoarding red border weapons.
Yeah.
And that was a whole other issue.
Like,
and now you're getting to...
I'll say this, a big thing that Bungie could do, and they've done it with armor, and I see no reason why they can't. In some reasons I can, but for the most part I see no reason why they can't do this. Set up transmog for weapons, and certain weapon types you can go and change the entire look of a weapon to another weapon of the same type.
Like, I don't know if that
'Cause
would fly though. The PvP community would have a shit fit.
of course they would. Of course they would. Too bad for them. Guess what? This isn't Halo, and everything doesn't look standardized. If it was
I know, but they all
standardized, then it'd
perform
be
the same
fine.
way, generally speaking.
Some
Like
of
they
them
all
don't.
perform
That's why like
some
it
of them.
like you can with some, like some auto rifles, some hand cannons. They fire the same rate and everything, so they can be interchangeable. Some of them you can't. I can
That's
understand
the
it on
thing.
that front. That's where, like, what is it, like the 130 hand cannon, like the different hand cannon types, you could
That's the
go and
thing, right?
interchange them, but you can't interchange them all together.
That's the thing, right? Like you can do like 130s to other 130s, but I don't know. That seems like more of a mess than it's worth.
But
And I mean,
when
we
you
already
think
kind of
about
have
it
an
from
appearance.
this regards, though,
Mm,
in a way, it would go and help reduce vault bloat. It would go and make it so that anything that is limited, because there are some items that are like limited in the design, and people would be like, "Oh, you could just scrap it and then go into your directory or whatever and go and bring it up whenever you want it," type of thing. But some of those you can't. There, for some items you can't do that. So that would go and help make it so that you can go and kind of be able to use that design in other locations in other ways, instead of it just being a vault item sitting there doing nothing because you like it and you want to keep it because it does look nice, but you can't get rid of it because if you do, you're not going to get it back.
that's the thing, right? And when you think about it, right, we do kind of have a system like you're mentioning. Like exotics, for example, have this system where, and even in the past, it allowed you to change the color. Nowadays, they don't really do that with exotics, but they allow you to actually change them to other skin types. We have exotics for that, right? And funny enough, there's even weapons like Recluse, which is one of the weapons in this slot for the Brave Arsenal, that have skins that were introduced way back in the day that you can actually buy. I think it's in the market right now. That allows you to change the look of Recluse to another pattern type. Here's the real issue I kind of think here. I think to myself, what is the point of, well, I know, I kind of think, we'll get to that. What is the point of introducing these quote unquote limited time skins? Because think about it. The skins you get at the end of a season pass, aren't those also technically limited time skins? Like, I can't get the skin for what's the shotgun I have in my arsenal right now or my thing right now? Duality. Not the duality from the raid. Duality from Season of the Hunt. Let's not confuse them, which now that I think about it, that is a really stupid naming scheme. They both named them the same, but at least I think they're named. But anyways, duality shotgun, right? I couldn't finish the season pass for Season of the Hunt. This was before season challenge and all that stuff. But anyways, I don't have that skin, and season pass skins never get put in the rotator for the Eververse, so I'll never have that skin. It's a nice looking skin, but it's a pity I won't have it. So when you think about it, what is the point of them literally pointing out these brave things are limited time skins, because we kind of already have that? And in those cases, when I earn that skin, such as the one I have on my Dragon's Breath right now, once I earn it, I can just pop it back on my new or old Dragon's Breath whenever I want it. Like, what is the point of having these nice, more edited skins for Hung Jury, Recluse, and all the other brave weapons if they're only just going to be things that you kind of have on the thing, but you don't really unlock or earn? They're on that weapon specifically, not that type of weapon, not Hung Jury, but that specific Hung Jury. What does this solve? Now you're probably going to sit there and say, well, duh, Nick, it solves the fact of more people playing the Brave Arsenal and playing this to get people playing because no one frickin' plays the game anymore. And you'd be right, but beyond that, beyond getting people to play the game again, what do these limited time skins solve? Because technically, we already kind of have limited time skins. Like, if they just said, once you complete this challenge, you unlock the ability to attune Hung Jury, as well as the ability to have this new shiny skin for your Recluse or your Hung Jury that you can pop on your Brave version of Hung Jury, or maybe just even base Hung Jury if you really wanted to be nice. And that would be that. But no, they made it this limited time thing. Hell, if you literally scroll over the ornament, it literally speaks limited edition weapon ornament, and I'm not even sure how to, like,
See,
what is the
here's the
point?
big thing, and it's gonna be slightly blasphemous for me to say this, but if Bungie goes and makes it so that you can universally use different weapon skins and stuff for like of the same type. You can universally use them in different places as an ornament. Guess what? Bungie can go and bring back old season ornaments and stuff like that and sell it on the Eververse, just like they do with skins. I'm just saying, it goes and makes it so that there's a way for people to go and get old content, be able to appreciate old content. Sure, they didn't earn it, but they basically still have to outright fork cash and whatnot if they haven't earned it but they want to use it. And then it also goes and gives a use for a lot of like the content that has been basically lost over the years and stuff.
I mean, in a way, they kind of do that with their Eververse engrams, right?
Yeah.
They have the stuff that comes into the Eververse store, and then after a few seasons, generally about a year's worth of time, that stuff just kind of gets thrown into the pool of stuff you can find in the Eververse engram. So you can just kind of, randomly get it in an Eververse engram.
Yeah. So I don't know. It would make
feels like
make a
really
use for certain things in some regards.
Yeah, like it feels like they really did this bad, and outside of getting more people to play, like they're really playing up the FOMO here. There's no real ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't, like I said, see the point to literally pointing out these Brave skins as limited time, and instead of just giving you the frickin' skin and the ability to attune after you complete their specific missions, they literally just give you a version here with the skin, and after you attune it, you get, I think, the chance to earn more of these types with the skin, which doesn't that just create the same problem we had way back in the days prior to crafting?
Yeah.
Problem we were trying to fix. Where people just hoarding limited weapons.
Like,
just thought.
Saying it for what it is, like, Bungie can make more money out of ornaments and stuff like that. They can go and be able to utilize old content. Like, it goes and provides, like, actual meaning to things and makes it so that it's not just lost to time and never gets seen ever again except for, like, the people who have it.
And
like,
that's the stupid part.
And let's be honest here. Who's really going around taking out weapons and running around with them and like doing like the kind of machinima type stuff that you see? Because I don't see anybody on Destiny doing that. It'd be cool. It'd be awesome if people did that. But let's be honest here. Destiny doesn't have the tools to allow you to actually do that.
And that's, like I said, the weird part. Like, if this were a money-making thing, I'd say, okay, they're just doing this for money. But they aren't. These aren't skins you can buy. You can only earn them through the mission. So it's not like Destiny's even making money. And you could say, well, it's to buy the Into the Light DLC. Problem, mate, it's a free DLC. So they're not making any money anywhere along the chain here. They're just making a stupid system for stupidity's sake, I guess. And like I said, you could just say, oh, they're trying to bring people back, but of all the ways to do it, that feels like the worst way you could go about doing it. Anyways, we've talked for length.
We've talked for quite a while now, so
I think we're almost pushing an hour at this point. But almost. So I'm just gonna shut up here, and we're just gonna call it, because otherwise this is gonna turn into an hour, and well, I'd rather not do that. You could consider this our makeup for not having a video last week. That's why this video is longer. Yeah, we're gonna say that.
Yeah, it's long because we want to make up, not because we're competent food.
Nah, that's totally the reason. But anyways, unless you have any closing points, Justin.
No, that's
then.
pretty much all I've had to say.
That's Onslaught. That's Into the Light. You've seen our takes. You've seen our opinions. Let us know down in the comments. What do you think? What do you think of the skins? What do you think of the Onslaught? Do you think it's worth the 2 months? Do you think it's gonna last 2 months? What do you think of the new Prismatic subclass? Are you concerned for the balancing team as much as I am once this drops? Let us know in the comments section. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more chaos ramblings like this. And of course, have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.